You said that yesterday that you went to Manchester Technicon or something, and then when we went to research that institution, you said you went to training in engineering. Yeah. We did not find such an institution existing. You occupied a senior position without qualifying because you had infiltrated the system. Where did you get the money to invest in the property development?
The first development I did, I borrowed the money from the bank.
My suspicion is that you were given money out of the military intelligence to go and be an investor in different countries to continue saving them, inspiring those countries on their behalf. But you must look like you are an investor.
With respect, Chairman, I think the honourable member has been watching too much TV. I believe the reason you're finding it suspicious is because you and certain other members of this committee are looking for ways of covering up the criminal conduct of crime intelligence officials and the abuse of the slush fund.
I'm not going to be patronized or be intimidated by anyone, not me. They can try with other people, not me. Okay. So you must never ever group me with people who are involved with some people who are doing wrongdoings in the crime intelligence. So, did you complete O-level or A-level?
O-level and one A-level.
One A-level?
Yeah.
What, that is equivalent to what in South African terms?
I don't know how you equate it. I suppose it would be something like a matric.
So you've got matric?
They don't have a matric.
No, I'm saying it doesn't matter what they call it.
I think it would be called the equivalent of a matric.
You've got an equivalent of matric.
Correct.
From there, which post-matric or post-A1 level did you go to?
So,
university or technicon or anything of that sort?
I went to a technicon, but I'm not prepared to discuss my educational background.
Which one?
I said I went to a technicon, but I'm not prepared to discuss my educational background. I made that clear. And
no, you have to discuss your educational background because you took our money. We hired you at AXA. At AXA. No. That's our money. Okay. You only get that money if you have reached certain particular qualifications. So we want to see if you received that money legitimately.
Which money?
AXA. You worked for AXA. They were paying you a salary.
They paid a salary. Yeah. I gave them a good return on that money.
No, it doesn't matter. Did you get any tertiary qualifications?
Yeah, I did.
Which is what?
I'm not prepared to discuss it.
But I want to check if you're qualified.
You go ahead and check.
No. I want to check with you if you're qualified to be head of aviation security.
Well, then you should perhaps speak to
AXA. And if you look at the report of the 2002, there is no even such a structure in the organogram of AXA. In the report of AXA, there is nothing called group aviation security, group heads aviation security. You are the only person who's using that concept. No one at AXA is using that concept. Even the advert, there were 2 adverts that year which were taken out. None of those adverts say group head aviation security. They say aviation security.
So I don't know where you're getting your information from, but I think it's defective. I'd like to refer you to a page in the annexes. Come to the page number now. I'd like you to refer to page 62.
Yeah.
And page 63.
Yeah.
And page 64. So on page 62, it's addressed to Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, Director, Executive Group Security. page 63, it's addressed to Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, Group Executive Security. On the Business News or Engineering News article, which is page 64, if you look at the second paragraph or the third paragraph on the left-hand side, it says, according to AXA Group Executive Aviation Security, Paul O'Sullivan, this is substantially more than was likely to be allocated had the 2001 terrorism attacks not occurred. And it talks about 150 or 140 million rand budget to improve security. So perhaps those three references would indicate that there is, in fact, a position called Group Executive Aviation Security.
No, the two heading don't speak to that.
Pardon me?
The two heads, the two things that you referred me to under Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, Director, Executive Group Security. That's number one. Number two, Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, Group Executive Security.
Correct.
There is nowhere where they call you Group Head Aviation Security.
So that my job title was Group Executive Aviation Security. So if you look at the page 64, on the third paragraph on the left-hand side, it says, according to AXA Group Executive Aviation Security, Paul O'Sullivan. So
No. That's what you call yourself. That's not what your employer calls you. I mean, this is an article. What you are referring me, it's an article of a newspaper, and that's how you would have said, this is how they must address you. But where you are being addressed officially in the letter of the institution, it says Director Executive Group Security. Then the second one, it says Group Executive Security. Nowhere do they refer to you as Group Head Aviation Security.
So those people wrote what they thought was my position. My position at the time and my contract of employment was Group Executive Aviation Security.
No, Mr. Paul, I'm saying to you, even the advert that was advertising that position did not write Group Aviation Security. It wrote Head Security.
It's 25 years ago.
Yes, then you arrived there and gave yourself a title that is non-existent.
No, that's not
Because
true.
it's not there in the organogram of the institution. There's no such a position. In their report, if you go and read their 2001 annual report, which will probably be published in 2002, if you go and check that report, you will realize that there's no such a position in that structure.
Chairman,
But let's pass that.
I'm just making the point that I was employed at AXA and I was employed in the position of Group Executive Aviation Security.
But say, I'm going to have a problem because you cannot refuse to tell me what are your tertiary qualifications, yet you occupy a head aviation security position, which its equivalent now, as if you look at the adverts this year, they require master's degree and some 5 years experience. So I could imagine during your time, there's no way, even the one that I'm referring you to, it says it requires a degree or an equivalent. That's why I want to check your qualification to match it with the requirements so that I can make a determination that you are indeed employed through your qualifications.
And am I correct in thinking, Chairman, that that's in the terms of reference of this committee, to look into the qualifications of a civilian that has nothing to do with it?
It has got everything to do
We're
with
going back, no. We're going back more than 20 years. Okay, and my qualifications were obtained 40 years ago. So I am not going to get into a debate. I have rights, and my rights include the right to privacy. And you would know from the Constitution. And my right to privacy, I will maintain. And you can dig into my right to privacy if you want. I'm here voluntarily, and I'm not going to submit myself to providing information which I believe you're not entitled to. So you can repeatedly ask for it, and you can make all the assertions you wish, but I'm not supplying you.
You
with
know
my
why
private
you're
information.
making this a big issue is because you lied yesterday and told us about a technicon that is non-existent.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's not there. You did. You told us that you went to some Manchester engineer or something. The chair can confirm that.
Okay.
You said that yesterday that you went to Manchester Technicon or something, and then when we went to research that institution, you said you went to a training in engineering. We did not find such an institution existing.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, you occupied a senior position without qualifying because you had infiltrated the system.
If you believe that.
And part of our investigation, the reason why we go to qualifications is we want to demonstrate that these people they don't have the necessary skills, yet they occupy strategic positions because of their proximity
in the police.
to those not in the police.
But aren't we supposed to be looking, Chairman, at the allegations from the KZN Commissioner of Police, and instead you're now diverting? So what you've actually done, Chairman, is you first of all invite me here, I come here, and now what you're doing is you're trying to impugn my character, and you've been doing it for the last 5 hours. And, you know, I'm not going to cooperate with that.
No. You're going to cooperate. Look.
No,
You went to mess up our IPIT and our justice system, our criminal justice system. We're trying to establish as to who is this person who is alleged to have done the following in the institutions that we're investigating. It is in that context that we're asking you about yourself. And it shouldn't be difficult for a person who has taken an oath to tell the truth, but nothing else but the truth, that I went to school and this is why. I'm not asking you whether you passed with this higher degree or not. I'm just asking, where did you obtain your qualifications? Because yesterday you told us about a different technicon that is not a Manchester Technicon.
Okay,
then you are doing engineering.
You get the transcript of yesterday.
Now
I think
today,
you'll find your mistake. And
Check, can you please intervene and perhaps remind him of what he said?
Mr. Paul Robert O'Sullivan, you went to Manchester Technicon.
No, I said I studied at Manchester, and somebody said, is it a Technicon?
If you listen to me,
Okay,
so that
sorry.
you know what you are going to respond to. You went to Manchester Technicon, and you obtained a higher certificate in electronics. That is the evidence that you deposed
Yes,
yesterday.
that's correct. And that is
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
But it's absolutely not called Manchester Technicon. But, you know, somebody said, is it a Technicon? And I said, yes, but it's not. But anyway.
You see, you are now changing that, now that you are no longer prepared to talk about your qualifications. But I just demonstrated to you, you spoke about your qualifications yesterday. And you were not qualified to be employed as head of anything at AXA because you didn't possess the necessary qualifications. Number two, which I want to ask is, after you went to, the military intelligence, did you work anywhere else except when you left the military intelligence?
Did I work anywhere? What?
Did you work anywhere after you left military intelligence?
Yes, I did.
Where?
I'm not telling you.
Why?
Because it's none of your business.
It's none of my business. So, okay, that's fine. You don't have an answer. And no, you don't have an answer because the question after that was going to be, where did you get the money to invest in the property investment? Because you were just from school, went to military intelligence, and then the next thing you come to South Africa for tourism, you love the place, then come back to South Africa to invest in property development, and not only in South Africa, but but in different kind of countries. Where do you get that money from? Because military intelligence will not have given you such pensions.
No, pension, I don't get a pension at the age of 26 or 27.
That's what I'm saying.
I
Where did you
I
get the
did
money
property development, and I made profit.
Where did you get the money to invest in the property development?
The first development I did, I borrowed the money from the bank, and I made it a profit. And I reinvested that profit in another property. And I made a profit there, and I reinvested that in another property, and I made a profit there. So that's how property development works.
No, I don't buy that story. Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, property investment is a very expensive investment. My suspicion is that you were given money out of the military intelligence to go and be an investor in different countries to continue saving them, in spying those countries on their behalf. But you must look like you are an investor.
With respect, Chairman, I think the honourable member has been watching too much TV.
Why?
Because you're speculating.
You have never worked to get money to qualify to engage in property investment.
How do you know that?
That's what you told me, at least. You went to work at military in intelligence, and then from there you worked in a firm. You can't tell me, because if you tell me that firm, I will be able to evaluate, to check,
No.
and make 1 + 1 to see if we can make such money to invest in property investment.
With all due respect, my property investment activities took place probably when you were still a baby.
Yeah.
But the reality of the situation is, if a person is an entrepreneur and he makes money, how can you then jump into the conclusion that that person is being paid from a government fund or something of that nature? That's pure speculation, and you don't have a shred of evidence. So what you're actually doing is you are making these speculations. It's your idea, and it's wrong.
No.
And I'm just pointing out that you are wrong.
No, my idea is that because I was a baby, and it's not my problem that I was a baby, it is my mother's problem. She gave birth to me at that time. I've got nothing to do with what I was at that time. So because you were an old man, you have to teach me how you came about to become a property investor. You can say I'm formulating it because we've put you there, and we want you to educate us as to how did you become this big property investor from just military intelligence.
I won't say I was a big property developer, but I was a property developer. And when you bring money into South Africa, you convert it from pounds to rand, you get quite a significant amount more rand. And if you look at the property prices overseas and you look at the property prices here, you can buy more property here for the same amount of money you will buy much less overseas. And I decided to get involved in property development. And if you find that suspicious, it's a problem. And I believe the reason you're finding it suspicious is because you and certain other members of this committee are looking for ways of covering up the criminal conduct of crime intelligence officials and the abuse of the slush fund. And that's why we have people like Pashlani, who's on trial at the moment, getting away with the crimes that they're committing, because Parliament, or certain parts of Parliament, are not exercising their duty of care and their duty to look after the interests of the country.
Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, if you know me, I'm not part of the nonsense you're talking about. Not me. I'm not part of any nonsense you're talking about. I'm not part of any slush fund or anything. I question people the same way I'm questioning you, all of them, including Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. I questioned him because I'm about the truth and nothing else but the truth. And I'm not going to be patronized or be intimidated by anyone, not me. They can try with other people, not me. So you must never ever group me with people who are involved with some people who are doing wrongdoings in the crime intelligence. If you have been following the proceedings here, you will see that I've taken the same posture with everyone. You are talking about former General Patlani. He's still coming to us. We are not done with him. When his turn comes, we'll attend to it.